Next, we're looking at the fallout of the APC Bayelsa Governorship primaries held in the state. Joining us this morning to look at that is a member of the APC, Edi Orubo, and a former member of the NDDC Board. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Well, the news is all over the place. Front page, APC National Working Committee meeting today, and top on the agenda is the Bayelsa primaries. Was there a primary or not?
Yes, there was a primaries held on the 22nd of September 2015. Originally, the primaries were scheduled to hold on the 19th of September, but at the request of the comrade governor, it was rescheduled for the 22nd. We made inquiries as to why it was moved from the 19th to the 22nd, and they were meant to understand that he had some private engagements, and that is why it was moved to the 22nd of September. Now, on the 22nd of September, that was a Tuesday. The previous day, which is the 21st, the comrade governor arrived Bayelsa State, and called for a meeting of all the candidates of aspirants of the party.
Allow me come in here. We'll come back to you because maybe we should just set the background properly for this particular discussion and go to a report from our correspondent.
The governorship primary election in Bayelsa State is yet to abate, with one of the aspirants, Primaries Silva, accusing the chairman of the committee, Adams Oshomole, of being responsible for the botched election as a result of his poor handling of the exercise. But Governor Oshomole denies this, saying the atmosphere he met on arrival at the venue was not conducive for any meaningful exercise.
The prospect of wasting another day or waiting for another day to be fixed for these primaries, I'm sure, overwhelmed the crowd. So the crowd, and I was with him when that happened. So he should have known that I did not instigate that at all.
He said, well, if we are saying we are not doing, nobody's going to go. Then they spoke their language, the people came in again. And they started shouting. So I said, okay, Silva. And of course, they are threatening, they are firing gunshots around the stadium.
Governor Oshomole also alleged that he was held hostage at the venue of the polls by thugs suspected to be loyal to Primaries Silva. Again, Mr. Silva counters this.
And I said, Silva, let me ask you one question publicly. Am I now kidnapped? And what is the ransom I need to pay to get out of here? He said, no, what he's just saying is that we should do the election. The people just want election. I said, so I should do the election outside the rules in order to regain my freedom? I spoke with the Chief of Defense Staff and others. They called them, and they called the GTF commander who came with full military escort. They were able to escort me out of the location. By the time I landed in Benin, the secretary called me that he wanted to leave. The police said he can't go. He should go and do what Silva asked him to do.
So I probably kidnapped them, or maybe threatened the 6 other members as well. But only he, Adams Oshomole, governor, quickly absconded and went about screaming. Whereas he didn't do anything about the other people that were left behind. I'm just saying this just to tell you that that couldn't have been farther from the truth.
One thing Mr. Silva says was evident in Governor Oshomole's action at the venue was that he came to Yenagua with a clear agenda, which was to get him out of the race at all cost. But the governor waves this off.
What I take from there, from the whole incident, is that first and foremost, Governor Oshomole had some intentions that I don't know. He had no intention to conduct the primaries.
So, but if you keep making those word allegations, I may have to find a way to get it to prove them in court. Because I don't know what he is bringing to the table. But what I brought to governors in Edo State is not tons of money. It's my name.
The governor has opted to step down as chairman, but says that at least 2 governors and a neutral AIG be appointed by the AIG to conduct the Bayelsa primaries to ensure a free and fair exercise.
From that particular report, that was why we started by asking you if there was truly an election on that day.
Yes, indeed, there was truly a primaries on that day. Primaries was conducted, even though the primary started very late in the day as a result of the actions of the chairman of the committee, because indeed he arrived at the venue very late. He must have arrived about 12:30. Even though the previous day he himself had a meeting with the aspirant saying that
30 p.m.
12, yes, saying that the accreditation must start by 8 a.m. in the morning. And the whole idea was that accreditation should have been done by midday for the election proper to start. But to our greatest surprise, the comrade governor himself arrived about 12:30. And when he arrived, he stopped the accreditation, went into the venue of the exercise, held a meeting with the aspirants, held another meeting with members of his committee. Those meetings were going on up until about 2 p.m. that afternoon. The information that we gathered from there was that they were deliberating as to whether the elections should continue or not. Now, when that information came, we said, hang on, let's give them a chance to come up with some kind of solution. They now told us that at 2:30, they were going to let us know as to the decision that they are taking. 2:30 came, we didn't hear anything. 3 o'clock came, we didn't hear anything. At 4:30, the crowd became very restless. At that time, they had actually done accreditation of the first local government. It was done in alphabetical order. So B was the first one, which is brass. The delegates had gone in and we are seated. Now, when about the delegates, we were outside, not outside the arena because you have two sets of gates. So you come into the first gate, before you get into the second gate. Those who had scaled the first point were now at the point of accreditation. And accreditation had been done, but they had not been allowed full entry into the stadium. Got this information. So you now had the surge of people trying to get into the stadium to say to the committee that, look, we want these elections to hold. Now, what was the reason for that? The reason for that is that the elections were originally, like I said, supposed to hold on the 19th. Now, because of the terrain that we have in Bayelsa State, it takes sometimes about 6 hours to get to the state capital. So some of the delegates had actually turned up a day before the elections, a day before the primaries, only to be told that the primaries were not holding. Now, those delegates couldn't now go back because the date was so close that they had to stay on until Tuesday to do the primaries. So I think that it was that frustration and the apprehension that they wanted to get these primaries done. That was what resulted in people getting to the stadium and saying that, look, we want these elections to hold.
Who are members of the delegates?
Well, the members of delegates are, you have the ward delegates, 12 members of the ward delegates, you have the state ESCO, then you have the state, the officers of the state ESCO. They were supposed to be delegates who were supposed to vote at the election. So the accreditation was done at the point when they had come in. I mean, clearly people lined up. I've seen some of the clips that Channel has shown. I've also seen some of the ones that AIT has shown. People lined up. Now, here claims that the exercise didn't take place. So I wonder whether those things were invented.
The initial accreditation that started, it was stopped, right?
Well, it was stopped at about 12:30 when the comrade governor came. At that time, yes, at that time.
Who was doing the accreditation before the comrade governor?
The officials, the committee members.
Which of the officials?
Well,
state officials or the committee members?
The committee members were doing the accreditation.
Were doing the accreditation.
Yes, because the comrade governor told us the previous night when he had an expanded stakeholders meeting that he wanted the accreditation to start at 8 a.m. in the morning. The reason for that is that he wanted to be done before the end of the day. So by 12, the whole idea is by 12 o'clock, 12 midday, the accreditations would have been done. But clearly that didn't happen.
So why did he stop it?
Well, when he came in, I think he had this feeling that it wasn't being done properly because of the issue of how delegates were going to be identified. Now, his own idea was that there was a guideline that the delegates were going to be identified by either PVCs, international passports, or what do you call it now, or driver's license. Now, if you look at
that was his own idea, or that was a directive from the party?
That was directive from the party. Now, including that also...
Was that followed?
Well, that was followed because he also suggested that in addition to that...
No, before the governor came in, before Edo State governor came in, was that being followed?
Oh, yeah, it was being followed because identification was being done by particularly PVC cards. That was being followed. And in addition to that, he also suggested that identification should also be done by the ward chairman, ward secretaries, identifying, because they are the only ones who know their members. In the event that you didn't have a PVC, you didn't have, what do you call it now, a driver's license, or you didn't have an international passport. Because frankly speaking, most of our people don't travel. They are rural people who live in the villages. So the idea of producing an international passport, when, I mean, they hardly come to Lagos, is just unthinkable. Or having a driver's license when they move around in canoes. If you had asked them to go and bring a license to enable them to drive a paddle canoe, then I'm sure that they would have been able to meet up that kind of requirement.
But a PVC was basic enough.
Yeah, it was basic enough, but you and I know that with the PVC, you also have a card reader to authenticate whether the PVC was an authentic PVC. Now, that wasn't done. They clearly looked at the PVC and said, no, this was a fake PVC, or this was a real PVC. And I don't think that they could have done that without marrying that with the card readers. Because if you had a card reader, then you would have been able to authenticate straight away that this PVC is fake or was a genuine one. So that is why we thought that physical identification would have been the best way of identifying those who are the delegates. Because don't forget, it's the party.
So you said that he had this idea, or that the party directed that this be the means of identification. Yeah. So why did he stop it then? Sorry? Why did he stop the accreditation process?
No, when the comrade governor came in, there were complaints that the process wasn't being followed. Complaints that the process wasn't being followed. And I was wondering who were those who were making that complaint. Because clearly, some of us, I was an observer, I was in there, and I didn't see anything that was untoward that was happening. Now, before the incident...
You were an observer?
Yes, I was. I come from a local government of the party.
Observer.
Of the party of APC.
Within
because the party, yes, the party had observers within the party. So initially, when a particular aspirant came in, he came in with quite a number of policemen. There was an altercation at the point of accreditation. I didn't quite get what was happening, but all I could hear was that, I mean, if you are not careful, I will stop the process. I got that bit from that conversation, but I didn't quite get what the issue was. Now, when the comrade governor came and the process was stopped, we thought that we smelt a rat, because if you look at all the events from the beginning, where the elections were to hold on the 19th, elections were rescheduled at his request. You now had a situation where, he had instructed that accreditation should start on a Tuesday morning by 8 a.m. He himself didn't turn up. He had told his committee members, 6 of his committee members, that we will start our accreditation by 8 a.m. He didn't turn up until after midday. Then you had a situation where, as soon as he came, he stopped the accreditation. Then you had a situation where he had to abscond, he had to leave the venue of the primaries to go away without wondering about the safety of the other 6 delegates. So one begins to wonder whether there was something amiss. And we hold that position, quite frankly.